Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Jada Brown Thompson, and as you can see from the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about how to get a pre-approval to buy a home in Jamaica with a mortgage from a commercial bank, right? So before we get too deep into this video, I do want to give you guys some background information on my situation before we get too deep in this video and you're like, this is not even relevant to me, right? Okay, so first of all, I am married and my husband is Jamaican, right? I am from the US. I was not born in Jamaica. I was born in Florida, right? So I'm an American citizen. He's Jamaican. And he has already used his NHT benefits, right? So this is not a video on how to obtain your NHT benefits. This is not about joint financing. This is strictly applying as an overseas resident, applying from America for a mortgage in Jamaica. Now, our situation is that we own a home in Maryland that we're currently renting out, and then we also own land in Manchester that we're currently building for our dream home, right? So the property that we're looking for currently in Jamaica will serve as an investment property. And my hopes was to find a property that has like a home and then also a self-contained unit so that we can rent the home as a long-term rental and then rent the self-contained unit as a short-term rental on Airbnb. So we're getting the best of both worlds with long-term, short-term, and then when we're in Jamaica, like let's say on vacation, then we're able to stay there without having to pay lodging fees elsewhere. So that's kind of where we are. In terms of getting the pre-approval, we did not have any allegiance to any of the commercial banks in Jamaica. I don't have a bank account with any of the commercial banks, and my husband does have one with Scotia, and then he also has a mortgage with joint financing from NHT and VMBS. But the reason why we were not too keen on VMBS again is because they have raised the interest rate at least 4 times within the last couple of years. And I know that is not uncommon with any of the banks in Jamaica, but there are some banks that will hold the interest rate for 3 years and then the interest rate is variable. But with VMBS, they were not like that at all. They have raised it from like 6% to 10%. And so we were like, we're not too keen on using VMBS again. So that is where we were. Now, in terms of finding the bank, I ended up using a mortgage broker because I've had great experiences with a mortgage broker when we bought our property in Maryland. We were introduced to a mortgage broker who worked with hundreds of institutions, and he was able to find us a lender who gave us like the lowest interest rate possible, as well as gave us grants for the property. So like I said, I'd had a great experience with a mortgage broker in the US. So we ended up finding a mortgage broker in Jamaica, and her name is Leslie. She's with Seamless Property Services, and she is great. She literally got us our pre-qualification in one day, the same day, and she was able to get us our pre-approval the next day. Okay, so mortgage brokers work with different banks and they analyze your information and see which bank would be most advantageous for you to work with. Originally, before I started working with Leslie, I just went around to all the different banks in Jamaica and just called their customer care line and asked to be partnered with a mortgage loan officer, and I tell you, that did not work. I wasted a lot of time doing that because either they would not answer or it would be a call center in like Bangladesh or something, and they'd be like, oh, we'll get you to someone, and they never do. Or I'm talking to someone, the phone suddenly disconnects. And then even when I would email them, I'd get these really generic emails, and then it'll just tell me submit my paperwork, and then when I submit my paperwork, no one calls me back. So working with Leslie, the mortgage broker, really helped to streamline the process, make it easier, and she works off of a fee, which obviously gives her an incentive to get it done faster for us as well. So I did mention the fees. Let me go into that a little bit. So to work with the mortgage broker, the cost is really minuscule compared to what you're getting, in my opinion. If the price of the property is under $10 million, she takes 1% of that sale price. And if it's over that $10 million, then she charges a flat fee, and it does not go over $45,000 JMD. Okay, so that's the fee to work with her. Now, let's talk about the requirements, okay? So again, like I said, we are in the US, right? So everything that I'm giving you is like the US requirements to get a mortgage, okay? So the first thing that we did was we had a conversation with Leslie, and she kind of just wanted to know what we were looking for, and I let her know, look, I'm looking for a fixer-upper. I want something that I could put a little money into and bring up that equity, you know, give it forced appreciation without buying something that's so expensive, and then the interest rate is going up and down, and then, you know, eventually I can't get a long-term tenant in there because it's more expensive to buy. So she was like, okay, I understand. And once we had that conversation and I let her know like the lay of the land, then she sent me the requirements. So the requirements for a U.S. Resident is last 3 months pay slips, detailed credit report with the score from Experian or TransUnion. And I ended up getting the credit report off of Credit Karma, and that was sufficient. Last 2 years tax return transcript from the IRS website, and last 2 years W-2. So that was the information that was required. I sent that to Leslie, and within a couple of hours, I mean, I don't even think it was 2 hours, she sent me back a pre-qualification letter. And so there is a difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. The pre-qualification is when she just does an overview of your information, and she says, based on the information that you presented, you're able to qualify for X amount at this interest rate, right? And you're able to shop around with that. And the reason why the pre-qualification is good is for you as the consumer, you're able to say, okay, I can afford a house at X amount. But when you don't have that amount, then you're just shopping for a home and you don't even know how much you can afford. So for instance, you could be looking at houses at 35 million when really you can only afford 15 million, and now you're just wasting your time because you can't even afford that based on the information that you present. And then the pre-approval is a lot more detailed. The pre-approval is when they start verifying that information, looking deeper into all the credit reports, you know, because we had the credit report in the US, and then my husband also had a credit report in Jamaica. So they're looking at this stuff, they're verifying what your debts are, your income, you're doing the income to expenditure report, and they're saying, okay, now we verified everything, and this is the amount that you can afford, and most likely it will be the same amount, but that's just the difference between the pre-qual and the pre-approval. Okay, so once you send all that information in, again, your mortgage broker or your loan officer will either ask for more information, or they'll ask for you to explain something, like we see that you have a car loan on your credit report, but you didn't, you know, claim that. What's the status of that? You know, things like that. And then you will get your pre-approval letter, and with that, you can start shopping for a property. Now, I do want to point out one thing, right, that shocked me. America and Jamaica look at debt a lot differently, right? In America, it's really like a credit society. If you want and you have the money and you have the credit for these down payment and closing costs, you can rack up how many ever houses that your heart desires. because America looks at credit a lot differently, and then they also look at credit cards a lot differently. So in America, when it comes to a credit card, right, as long as you are being responsible with your credit, you're under the 30% utilization that they recommend, you're paying your credit card debt on time, a credit card doesn't really affect you the same way it does in Jamaica. So although we have great credit and we have, you know, these credit cards are paid on time every month, zero balance, they're factoring in all those credit cards into the amount that we, you know, are seeking for the mortgage. So when I got the amount back from Leslie, I was like, wait a minute, Leslie, I was expecting a lot more. And mind you, it still can get us like the house in a scheme and everything, but I'm like, is this everything? And so her response to that was, I want to read it word for word. Okay, so again, this is talking about like the expenses and the debt in Jamaica. So Leslie said, the banks uses half your income, not the full amount. What this means is that all your debts currently plus the principal and interest of what you're trying to borrow cannot be more than half the income. Okay, so that is directly from the horse's mouth, not calling her a horse, just saying, you know, that is directly from her. And then I also saw the interest rate was at like 9%. And so I'm like, why is the interest rate so high when the credit is wonderful? Like, it's great credit in Jamaica, great credit in the US. And she said the rates in Jamaica are currently on the higher side. This is the lowest rate currently. So she did say that when we're shopping and let's say the rates do go down, then we would get the lower rate, right? It's not like a locked or a fixed rate. And I was like, wow, 9% is really high. But that's just what the rates are currently. And then I also want to say that if you have any side business income, I know for like the US, it's 2 years that you have to show this business income. But what Leslie said is that any business income that you have, as long as they see an agreement is in place, like for us that was a lease agreement, and they see that the money is being deposited consistently into an account, they can count that income as income on your loan application. So that's really advantageous and really great if you're somebody who has other income coming in besides being salaried or, you know, having that regular W-2 income, salary income, hourly income. So that is how you get your pre-approval in Jamaica. And once you have the pre-approval, then you're able to start shopping for a home. You can show the realtor this pre-approval, because no matter where you are, America, Jamaica, wherever, they have to see the pre-approval, because they're not going to take you seriously. Because again, you can tell them, yeah, I can afford 35, 50 million, when really it's 10 million, and now you've just wasted everybody's time. They want to know that you really can't afford it and that the bank will lend you this money, and now they can show you properties within your range, right? So I hope this video was helpful to anybody out there who is seeking to get a mortgage in Jamaica. Please let me know if this content is relevant for you guys. I can make a whole series about getting the pre-approval, shopping from overseas for a home, you know, the whole process, because it is quite different from the US in terms of having to get lawyers involved. It's different, and I can document that process for you guys if you like. So hopefully this was relevant for you. If it was, please make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and send this to anybody who needs this information. And I will see you guys in my next video.